Does Christianity not stifle scientific discoveries, as in the case of Galileo and the Catholic Church? And why did the Catholic Church feel it necessary to persecute Christian scientists like Galileo and Copernicus?
Well, the history of this is utterly fascinating. If you want a good read at Christmas, try reading Galileo's Daughter by Dava Sobel. You see, the interesting thing is this is an iconic story. It's used all the time to show that the attitude of the church, Christianity, towards science was negative and so on. But when you analyze it, it becomes so much more interesting. Firstly, the first people to attack Galileo were not the members of the Catholic Church. They were the philosophers, the Aristotelian philosophers. And they believed that the earth was fixed because that is what Aristotle had taught. It did not move. They were the principal objectors to Galileo claiming it moved. Now, the Catholic Church had jumped on that bandwagon because they found statements in the Bible that they thought supported the idea that the earth did not move. The Lord has set the earth on its pillars, that it should not move. So they jumped on the bandwagon of the bad science of Aristotle. It's very different from science versus faith in God. Thirdly, or secondly, Galileo was not an atheist. He was a believer in God when he started, and he was a believer in God when he finished. And the net result of a great deal of scholarship done on this, and there are amusing things, you know. Galileo was a bit of a rascal, really. He insisted on writing science in Italian rather than Latin, and that offended people. And then, to make matters even worse, he, in one of his famous books, putting forward his views, he had the views of the Pope coming out of the mouth of a character he called Simplicius the Fool, which did not earn him a great welcome in the Vatican, and so on. And the general verdict on that story and on the Huxley-Wilberforce debate given by Colin Russell, an eminent professor of the history of science at our Open University, is these stories keep being used to demonstrate a conflict between science and religion, and the thing that needs to be explained is how they ever came to fulfill that role, because history shows that they do not support it at all. Now, there is, of course, no excuse for the way in which the Catholic Church treated Galileo, and only repented of it recently, but he wasn't persecuted. As far as we know, he lived to the end of his days in luxury provided by his friends. So again, it's an iconic story that does not establish what it's used to establish.